What's up, everybody? Ben Razzie here for Odd Chopper, bringing you my best bet of the day. It is Wednesday, September 7th. In the sports world, we're going to scan the lines, break down the values, and pick the bet that we think has the best chance of cashing. That is what we do here. And if you are checking out this channel for the first time, welcome to Odd Chopper. Welcome to this community. Welcome to this video. We hope that you really enjoy it. A lot of betting content, all the sports, anything that you want, we have. If you want to show that support, hit the like button and join this team. Press subscribe. We want you to check out all the videos that we have. I really think you're going to enjoy it. And hopefully you've been cashing some tickets. Yesterday, if you watched this video, you went to the New York Yankees. Slight problem. The game got rained out. So what are you going to do? It's a void. It's no problem in the betting markets. That happens sometimes. We move on. I will say that exact spot is on the slate today in terms of Cole versus Ryan. If you want an extra bet, you can go watch that video and maybe play that. But we move on to today. But one thing that remains the same, BetMGM, they powered this video the entire year. They've done a great job, and they still have that opportunity for the risk-free bet of up to $1,000 with the promo code BENSBET. Or just go to the description. You'll see it in the pinned comments. New users, sign up over there. You deposit, and you get that risk-free bet. It's a chance to make some money without taking any risk. If you lose, you get your money back in free bets. But where are we going to bet? Where are we going to put that money? We're going back to baseball. I almost put in a tennis bet, but I didn't. I couldn't find the right line. I looked at the board. I like this spot. We're going to talk about it. Astros, Rangers. Big mismatch, but I think it's warranted. Let's get into it. Texas Rangers, 59-76, 31-38 on the road. The Astros are quite good. 87-49. That's ridiculous. 44-21 at home. They did lose last night, 4-3 to this very team. This is the third game of the series. They split the first two. One thing to note, the Rangers, they did get it done yesterday, but Otto only went 4 innings pitched. They had to tax that bullpen pretty heavily. So when we look at this game, obviously it's always going to come down to what opportunities do we have to get into the pitching staffs? What opportunities do we have with the Texas Rangers? Who's on the mound? It's little things like that make all the difference in these bets. So what did I do? Obviously, went to the game, broke it down, and let's start with the pitching. So Cole Ragans is on the mound for the Rangers. We don't have a ton of information on this guy. 0-2 with a 4.42. He had a calf injury. It looks like he's getting the start today. I mean, if you want to look at his splits, they're extremely small. He's been terrible on the road. 0-1 with a 6.48. Opponent batting average of 314 versus 189 at home. But again, we can't draw a lot from that. I'm talking like 10 innings pitched on both sides. He's had 4 starts. Hasn't gone longer than 5 innings pitched in any start. The Astros already got to him in a start. He gave up 5 earned runs in 4 1/3 innings when he faced them. I just think he's a average at best pitcher. He's going up against an extremely potent offense on the road, and the Astros have already seen him. It seems like there will be some runs on that side. It's not a massive over-under, as you can see, but at the same time, wow, the Astros almost killing me during the video. They will get some production. They will be able to knock this guy around. Now, who is our pitcher? Christian Javier, 8-9, 3.07 ERA at home, 5-5, but a sparkling 2.52. Opponent batting average just 153 at home versus 213 on the road. This guy's a quality pitcher. He's got a quality offense behind him, and he is at home with a real sample size. He definitely prefers pitching at home. 6 starts in August, a 2.53. Just solid. Very respectable. He's been pitching, giving them quality starts each and every outing over the last 6, and those 6 starts were in August. I like what I see, and really the formula is simple. Knock out Ragans, get some runs early, get into this bullpen, keep the pressure on. I talk about this a lot in the video. It's never ideal in my mind to lay a 1.5 when you're at home and you only get 8 frames, but at the same time, I really like this price. So I went to oddchopper.com. I did shop this around. -130 was the best I could find. There were some -135s. I even saw some like -137s out there. I like this price. I'm comfortable with it. I think the Astros kind of run away with this one. So, of course, you could structure it where you go to the first 5. You're still going to have to lay a 1.5 in the first 5. You'll get plus money if you want to be more aggressive. But for me, I kept it very simple. I think that the Astros here have a decisive pitching advantage coming off a game that they kind of let slip away.
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? We don't stop around here all week. We got strategy shows. We got live before lives, deeper dive. We got on the contrary, who my guest will be hosting, I believe, this Friday. All of that good stuff. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D. Glad to have you back. If you weren't here with us yesterday, you're here now. It's all good, baby. Follow me at Lafayette_D on the Twitters, LOUGHY_D. And while you're over there, hit up my boy Neil Orfield at Player Q DFS. You know him, one of the best DFS players out there, slaying football every season, back to do the same again this year. What's going on, man? First time we're doing the ownership show together.
Yeah, I can't say it's my favorite thing to wake up and have to do a show immediately with two Eagles fans. We got Mike behind the scene, Lafayette on the show. I got to talk to Eagles fans this early in the morning. No, thank you. No, I'm kidding. I'm happy to be here. Really, very happy to be here. Happy to talk NFL. This is my first regular season NFL show of the season. Excited to do it. Even with you guys being Eagles fans, I still enjoy your company. So looking forward to doing this show. I will not be hosting on the contrary this week because I'm going to Boston on Friday, but in the future I will be, and I'm excited about that as well. Someone
said on the comments of yesterday's show, they were like, "Fuck, Laffy's being such a homer. It's brutal." And the thing is, it's not even about that. They have a really good matchup this week. So
yeah, with the Lions, you can't do much.
Yeah, they're facing the Lions. Am I just supposed to go, nah, pass?
Have you ever done a show and talked about any Eagles player and not had somebody though say, "Oh, Laffy's just an Eagles homer"? That's the
all the time.
Talk about. It's always Miles Sanders.
All the time. And if I do betting shows, I'm usually fading the Eagles. So yeah, I try and be objective, but it doesn't matter. Look, we're here. We're having fun. We're here to talk about football. This is right, Larry. Yeah, Hurts is top quarterback in the boom bust. Of course. No, it wasn't you, Ryan. Someone was a lot less tactful than you. It's in the car. But hey, if you're listening podcast form, welcome. You might not see our pretty faces, but you're still listening, and we're here for it. Subscribe, leave a review, rating, all that good stuff helps us greatly. But if you're here on the YouTubes, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. You know how it goes. We got 29 thumbs up right now. We can crush past 50 pretty easily. So let's go ahead and atone for your sins if you forgot. I forgive you, and so will the YouTube gods or the overlords, whatever you want to call them. And if you want to join, hit join down below. Free super chats each month. Custom emojis that my boy Kickstart just used. You got the badges. And we got some other stuffs coming as well. So you ready to do this, man?
Let's do it.
All right. If you're not new to the channel or this show, you know how we do it. If you are new, we're doing ownership, and then we hit on top stacks at the end. We factor in ownership, leverage scores, and all that stuff. Try and put you guys in the best situation going into week one. We don't talk about quarterback ownership until the end when we get to top stacks. It just makes a whole lot more sense that way, because if a quarterback is high owned, outside of like a Jalen Hurts or a Lamar Jackson, generally speaking, their pass catchers are going to be high owned as well. So we'll go running back, wide receivers, tight ends, and then hit on top stacks with quarterbacks mixed in along the way. Happy to have you guys here. Let's do it. Running backs, Neil. So do you think DraftKings pricing is, someone asked a question in a comment from yesterday's show. Do you think DraftKings pricing in week one is usually more soft than other weeks with the intentions of getting newer people in the door, making it easier for them to build lineups? Or do you just think it's softer based on, we don't know what's going on with a lot of players?
I think it's more the latter. I think that they post it so early. They post the week one contest weeks in advance, and a lot happens between when they post it and when week one starts. So I think it's more just, it's really difficult to price it for week one. I don't even know if there is a way that you could set the pricing efficiently for week one, just because we don't really know what to expect week one. So I think, I don't think that it's intentional. It wouldn't shock me if it were intentional, that they are intentionally making it softer, easier for casual players, but I think it's unintentional.
You got a lot. And yeah, Larry, Saquon Barkley jumped in ownership considerably. I think at that price point, rightfully so. But if you're looking at the top, and we'll talk chalk at each position loosely. I'm using that term loosely. If they're, 10+%, we'll talk about it because I want to get you guys all the information we can. And then we'll get to some pivots at each position that are lower owned plays. But you have Jonathan Taylor at the top, 22%. But also in the same neighborhood, at least, within 5%, you have Christian McCaffrey at 17. You have Derrick Henry at 17.5. So all of the top tier players this week, outside of really Austin Eckler, who's not going unowned, all three of these guys are getting a decent amount of ownership at their price points.
Yeah, and I mean, it is well deserved. So I think I'm changing the way I'm talking about this a little bit this year, because last year I did shows with Greg and I would, often say, I think this player is better than this player because he's coming in at lower ownership, even though he has slightly lower odds of being of booming. I think that we need to reframe it somewhat in that you want some of these high owned plays in your lineup. You need to play some chalk in your lineup. If you go if you go off the chalk in every spot, it's a mistake. So I think all of these guys are objectively great plays. Jonathan Taylor coming in at 18 with an 18% chance of booming this week at 9,100. I mean, think of the score you have to put up when you're 9,100 to boom. And he's coming in at 22% ownership. So he is over owned a little bit by the field, according to our projections, but he still has, the highest odds of anybody of putting up a huge score that you really need on this slate. So I think, Jonathan Taylor makes sense in a lineup where you are going to contrarian plays also. If you play a contrarian stack and play Jonathan Taylor at running back, that makes a lot of sense. You don't want to play Jonathan Taylor along with chalkier stacks and have chalk everywhere in your lineup, but he still looks great. He's always going to look great, especially in this matchup with the Texans. Christian McCaffrey, same thing. 15.2% chance of booming, 16.9% projected ownership. He's a little bit over-owned, but he's still a great play. He still has the second best odds of booming of anyone on this slate. So I think that, everybody, none of the chalk looks awful to me, just in a vacuum. Just looking at, they're all coming in a little bit over-owned relative to their boom odds, but you're going to need chalk somewhere in your lineup. So I think these guys are all fine to play. You just probably don't want to play, 3 of these chalk running backs together, most likely.
For sure. And Ryan, yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Neil, can you turn your mic up? Can you turn that volume up on your mic a little bit?
I can try. Let's see.
Yeah, it seems a little bit low here. Maybe chat can agree or disagree. Seems a little low on my side.
So I have never done this before. I am trying.
We'll figure it out while you do. I'll
plus
talk.
Button. Okay.
Something I've done before. But yeah, I look at all 3 of these guys and I go, Taylor could win the slate. Henry could, and McCaffrey could as well. I think too, when we get to receivers though, it's going to be interesting. And Ben and I talked about this on the First Look show yesterday. You can check that out. It's still up on the channel. That when you're looking at certain players like this, it does make it interesting too, if you're going to go contrarian stacks opposed to that, even if it's like a skinny stack with a Matt Ryan or a Michael Pittman, in the event that Jonathan Taylor doesn't find the end zone 2 or 3 times. There are ways that this can work. Whereas, even like, I'm not saying I'm big into Baker Mayfield this week at all and that offense, but is it possible that DJ Moore and, Robbie Anderson are the ones that get the job done and McCaffrey doesn't score? I'm not saying it's the most likely situation, but I do think on a team like Indianapolis, where you're going to have such a massive target share for Pittman, it does make it a pretty interesting situation. And we'll get to all of that, but I'm really curious about some of these mid-range guys. I mean, you have Barkley, whose ownership kind of soared overnight after we did the update. DeAndre Swift, another mid-range guy in that 6K range. I guess you could throw Mixon in a similar price range. Alvin Kamara, probably he's 7,600, but he's not Jonathan Taylor price. I could honestly go down the list, and all of these guys are basically 10+% on, including Najee Harris, including Aaron Jones. And the only reason they're not getting more is because Saquon Barkley's so popular.
Yeah. Is my mic? I mean, I didn't really do anything. I just have it close to my mouth. If I talk just a little bit closer, that sounds a little better. A little bit better. Okay. I guess I will try to talk a little bit closer to the mic. I couldn't find it. It appears to be at full volume currently. So I'll just talk a little bit closer to the mic and hope that that is a little bit better. Yeah. Alvin Kamara, another solid play, 7,600. You get him at a little bit of a discount in terms of ownership, coming in at 12.1% ownership. I like that. You talked about, sorry, I was kind of distracted trying to figure out my mic. So I don't know everybody that you mentioned there, but
just basically all of the mid-range guys. I mean, all of them are from Kamara down. Kamara, Mixon, Swift, Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, Saquon Barkley at the top. All of those guys from 6K to 76 are getting a lot of love this week. And I think rightfully, I think you could look at any one of them and say, I think you could look at any single one of those guys, and we'll get to some of the pivots in that range as well. And you could look at them and go, yeah, I could see them given the volume or their matchups, or their offensive line or their pass catching acumen, and say all of those guys could find ways to be in a $1 million lineup.
Yeah, Yeah, you totally could. Just looking through the list, there aren't that. I mean, obviously, like Alexander Madison, probably not.
No.
Guys
The guys not those guys,
okay,
but
yeah,
just
yeah.
the ones that I rattled off. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, sure. Of the guys you rattled off, yes, those are all premier running backs who have a shot in a Millie Maker type setting of being in the winning lineup. And yeah, they're all getting some ownership. But nobody's NFL. You worry. You have to always be concerned about ownership, but nobody on a slate this size really gets like 40% ownership. That is like, you really need to absolutely fade it. At least so far, week one, it's not looking like we're going to get that kind of ownership. So I think all of these guys are playable. In terms of favorites, I'm still kind of working out who I like the best here. I do really like, I think Christian McCaffrey is really interesting on this slate. Austin Eckler is interesting just as a pivot from the passing game for the Chargers. Delvin Cook coming in at low ownership. I'm surprised to see he has such a low boom probability, because in a vacuum, I see Delvin Cook at 6.4% projected ownership in a rivalry game with the Packers. I kind of want to jump in and play a little bit Delvin Cook, but the boom bust tool does not love him, coming in at 1.2% chance of booming on this slate. So not looking as good there. Yeah, a lot of interesting options here. And then of course we talk about Aaron Jones in that same rivalry game, coming in at only 9.6% projected ownership. It'll be interesting to see kind of how that backfield splits up this year, because we don't really know what to expect in terms of Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. But I think that coming in at under 10% ownership looks pretty good to me.
I think in a game like this, both Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, and I'm not saying, play both of them in the same tournament lineup, but I think there's a good argument to be made for both of these guys. And I'll tell you why. Allen Lazard right now, we don't know if he's going to play. He's the de facto number one coming into the season, right? Matt LaFleur, non-committal on whether or not he'd be on the field for week one. And then you've got someone like Robert Tonyan, who hasn't played since when? When was the last time Robert Tonyan played? Almost week 8 of last season, right? And we still don't know if he's going to be active. And if he is, I can almost guarantee that he's going to be limited coming off that ACL tear. So that leaves, and you've got Christian Watson, who's expected to be on the field, right? Second round rookie, but was out of practice most of the summer. You're looking at like Romeo Doubs and Sammy Watkins, just
Randall Cobb.
Yeah, like a weekly injury, and Randall Cobb, right? This is who you're dealing with. Now, that isn't to say that Aaron Rodgers can't work his magic, but when you look at how good Aaron Jones is as a pass catcher, and we already know that Matt LaFleur plans on running a lot of sets with 2 running backs. That makes it more interesting. AJ Dillon last year comes into the league 2 years ago. They say he can't catch passes. Last year, go look at his yards per route run. Go look at yards per reception. He was good as a pass catcher, had 1 drop on 37 targets. I think both of these guys get involved in the passing game. I think they look to run the ball a lot. They have a strong defense, a strong secondary, a healthy Jair Alexander in the secondary. This might be one of those games where Minnesota doesn't score a ton of points, and Green Bay can run the ball, 30 times if they want, and also pass to the running back. So I just think there could be a ton of volume for both of these guys this week.
Do you think there's any chance that Aaron Jones is the leader in targets for the Packers this year?
This year?
This season?
So you're talking like Christian McCaffrey 2019 or whatever that was?
Yeah, essentially. Because they don't have a lot of talent, or I guess their talent is debatable at this point. I don't think we know who the Packers wide receiver 1 is. People assume that it's Allen Lazard. It's probably Allen Lazard, but Allen Lazard as a wide receiver 1 is not something that I have a ton of confidence in. So yeah, I think that Aaron Jones this year could just have incredible volume. I think they could go to him not just in the running game, but also as one of their leaders in targets. So yeah, I'm excited about Aaron Jones for this year. This is a game with a 47-point implied total. The Packers are only favored to win by 1.5 points. So I think, as you said, if they get up by a lot, they could be going to Aaron Jones just to run it into the ground. But even if they're down, I could see Aaron Jones still being really involved in the passing game. So I think he's a relatively safe option at 6,700, with the biggest detriment, as we talked about, being AJ Dillon is there, and we don't really know how much AJ Dillon is going to be vulturing from him.
I think a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
But I don't know how much we have to really consider it vulturing is the thing. Like, okay, on the goal line, last year over the second half of the season, AJ Dillon literally led the league in goal line carries. Okay. That Aaron Jones had one in the 6 games they played together over the final half of the season. Jones missed the game, the injury, and then didn't play in week 18. That is concerning, but I still think both of them are going to get enough volume when you look at the pass catchers that are in Green Bay. They're devoid of talent, or at least proven talent, or at least talent that's under 60 years old, that's healthy. I think both of them are totally fine this week. Are you going to have any AJ Dillon under the assumption that this guy gets a lot of work himself?
Absolutely. I'll have some AJ Dillon coming in at 3.5% projected ownership at 5,300. Same game environment. And as I alluded, I think both of these guys could have major volume this year. And you said the same thing. I think that both these, you look at, just the way drafts have been going in season long. I've been drafting best ball all summer, and, Aaron Jones is a 18th overall pick right now in best ball.
Dillon's what,
like
60?
Yeah. So, and I think both of those are warranted. I probably don't want them both on the same team, because I think in both cases, or at least in Dillon's case, you're kind of making an assumption about where his role is going. No, actually, I think in both cases, there is upside for more in both of those price tags for both these guys, because I think they are two of the more talented players on the Packers offense this year. So yeah, sign me up for AJ Dillon in particular, coming in at 3.5% projected ownership. Now I got to check out his boom odds. Okay, we've got him at 0.9% for boom odds. I'm kind of disregarding that because I think we don't really know what the situation is.
I agree.
So I think that I'm willing to go over the weight, and I'm likely to go over the weight on AJ Dillon, even though he does have negative leverage currently in the boom bust tool.
Yeah, because I think what's his projection at? 10? And we have Jones probably way higher, right?
Yeah.
And we have 10. Jones at 15.4. So 1.5 times the projection of Dillon. I don't think it's crazy, but I think Dillon will definitely get goal line work. Last thing I'll say on him, they didn't draft him in the second round for no reason. Like this is a guy that they drafted with the intention of using. So I think that's a really interesting situation there. And I actually think both of them should have higher ownership. So, it's a pick your poison type deal for me. What about Kamara now that this offense is both bolstered but also healthy?
Yeah, I mean, Alvin Kamara, it's tough for me because we don't really know what the passing volume is going to be with. I guess he did have pretty high passing volume last year, so maybe that's not really the concern that I think it is. But I definitely have interest in.
No, you're right. It was the lowest of his career by a wide margin, but he averaged his career high in touches.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So that is why. That's what I meant. Okay. Alvin Kamara, 12.1% projected ownership. 7,600 is a fair price tag. I have kind of concerns about Alvin Kamara from a season-long perspective. 12.1% ownership seems fair. I don't think that I'm going to try to be getting over that on Alvin Kamara, but I think that I'm probably going to be somewhat close to the field, maybe just a little bit under the field. He is not my favorite. It scares me a little bit. I don't really know what to expect from New Orleans this year. Michael Thomas will be back, so we don't really know what the running versus passing split is going to be for New Orleans. I think for me, he's not somebody that I'm targeting in this matchup. 42 over under, not a game environment that I love. They're favorites. I don't know how you think that factors in for Alvin Kamara, because he's involved so much in both the passing game and the running game. To me, he's just kind of a guy that I'll get to if I have 7,600 left over and he makes sense in the lineup, but not somebody I'm really targeting. Do you feel strongly about Alvin Kamara one way or the other?
No, I don't feel strongly about him one way or another, but I'm torn on Alvin Kamara is what I would say. I mean, so here's the thing. If you look at the Falcons secondary, it's not that bad, right? In terms of their cornerbacks, it's not bad, but their pass rush is so anemic, so bad. Even if it's better than last year significantly, it's possible that it's still worse than the league, Neil. That's how bad it was last year, right? I think they average less than a sack per game. I don't know how anyone gets to Jameis, and I don't really have a ton of confidence in their run defense either. So it does feel like a really good matchup for Alvin Kamara. And it's not like you have to worry about, Jameis only gets the ball to Kamara in the passing game if he's pressured. That's not true. You're going to get the ball to him anyway. But I think he's in a price point where it's kind of no man's land because you can go down into the 6K range and get some similarly great options. Like Saquon Barkley, not a favorite. I think there's some upset potential in that game, but they're not a favorite. We have no idea if this offense is going to be better under Brian Dable, but it can't really be worse than it was under Joe Judge. So does Saquon Barkley get a ton of volume? Probably. If you look at the running backs behind him, there's nobody. I mean, Matt Breida is the primary backup. There's no one there. He's healthy. He's probably going to play a ton of snaps. So that's the thing with Kamara for me is you could go above him or you could go below him. It feels like a no man's land type of range there.
Yep, I'm totally on the same page with you there. There are just so many running backs that I prefer that are cheaper that I think are more interesting that maybe I'm overlooking Kamara. Like maybe this is kind of a blind spot for me, but I think that it is kind of just I don't really have a ton of confidence that Kamara is going to outperform all these guys. As you mentioned, Saquon Barkley is a good example. Somebody who's cheaper. I'm not sure that he's going to outperform Saquon Barkley. I'm not sure that he's going to outperform Najee Harris, Aaron Jones. So I think I'd just rather go to these guys that are cheaper. And then of course, even further down, we have some really interesting, really cheap options. So it's hard for me to really want to get to a ton of Alvin Kamara. I think he's still, he's a great player. So I will want to play some Kamara, but not really a target for me.
Richard Seagraves, welcome to Team Stokastic, brother. Nice to have you here. You guys can hit join down below if you want to join. Clayton Eskew, thank you for the super chat. Clayton was one of the first people to ever go on that jersey. As a matter of fact, when I was writing super chats down on that every day, and then I just got super lazy, Neil. It fell by the wayside. But yeah, there's a lot up there. Clayton was one of the maybe the first up there with a $10 super chat today. Do you think the quarterback running back stack will be a thing again? It was a winner a few times last year. Yeah, that's always, I love that question. And it's something I love to talk about, Neil. I don't mind spending a couple minutes on it because I kind of had forgotten about it since it's brand new season again. But for me, if I'm going to do that, and your answer is probably more important here, but I do think as far as concentration of offense goes, you need to be paying attention to that. Like if it's a highly concentrated offense, I think you could see that work, especially with a pass catching running back where you have like a clear primary wide receiver, a clear primary running back to get, and both of them, 30%, 25% target share, and then a running back that's getting almost all the carries, but also involved in the passing game, and then a good enough quarterback. So I think it can work. We've seen it work multiple times actually, but I do think there are specific circumstances that call for a strategy like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I largely agree with you. I mean, what I care about more than the concentration of the offense, because I'm thinking like Najee Harris, you could do it with Najee Harris, right? And is that really that concentrated of an offense? Because I expect them to spread out the ball to wide receivers. But Najee Harris is, obviously very involved. I like it. I think that it is a good thing to do that a lot of people are going to miss. A lot of people aren't going to want to be doing quarterback running back stacks, but just looking at kind of the chalky running backs, I'd love to do it with Saquon, McCaffrey, Swift, Kamara, Najee, Eckler, Jones. I think it makes sense with all of those guys to do a quarterback running back split. And I think that it is a way to get a little bit different and still having some positive correlation within your lineup. So I really like the quarterback running back split. It's actually something that I did the first time I ever had a big win in NFL was a quarterback running back stack. So I'm a big fan of it.
Who was it?
It was it was Matt Ryan, and I'm blanking on who the running back was. It was when they had a split backfield. I can't remember. I'm not gonna remember.
Okay.
It was 3 years ago. So
I'm trying to remember who it was.
Yeah.
They've had so many in and out. Was Devonta Freeman still there?
It was Devonta Freeman. Yes.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, him or Tevin Coleman
right.
or Mike.
I'm
Wouldn't have been
getting-
Mike Davis, but
I'm getting corrected in chat. Najee Harris. Najee
yeah,
Harris.
I actually DM'd you that earlier.
I saw that as well. I saw that. All right, I got it. I'm totally.
Hey, we
that.
all do it. We all do it. For me, it was who was it? Who was the Detroit running back that's been all over the place? For Matt Gajewski, it was Deontay Harris.
For a lot of people, it's Alvin Kamara.
Yeah,
as I understand, a lot of people call him Kamara.
Yeah, Kamara. But I think that one's a little more subtle. You know?
Yeah.
I can't wait for the people to come on here with the Romeo Dubes. That's going to be a good one because it's not Dubes, but it certainly looks like something, or Daubs or something.
It's Dobbs, right? It's just like straight up Dobbs.
Yeah.
Somebody already corrected me in chat. That's the reason I know that.
Yeah. But, there was one that I had that was pretty bad. I can't remember who it was anymore, but unimportant because he doesn't really get any snaps and I don't have to say his name. But we spend a lot of time on running back intentionally, in case you're wondering. It's an important position here. I'm going to rattle off a couple guys. I want your opinion on them as lower owned players. And then I want to get to one that is kind of glaring to me, and we'll spend a bit of time on that. But Dalvin Cook coming in at 6%. Oh, and if you guys want to see the tools that, like Neil's referencing, the boom bust tool or ownership or the projections, the new lineup generator, which is super sick, save you a lot of time. And the what went into that is insane. All of that stuff. If you're looking to get in on that, we got a promo for you because football season's coming up. Use the promo code SCRAMBLE, SCRAMBLE, or just go to awesomemode.com/promos. In my opinion, it's way easier. Mike can throw it in the chat. 7 days of Stokastic plus platinum. So straight week for $7. It's $1 a day. Every single tool on the site, not just for football, for everything, not just football, every other sport. You want to dabble in UFC or PGA or baseball, or you're just interested in football, it's well worth it no matter what you plan on doing. But Scramble will get you 7 days for only $7, $1 a day, every tool on the site. And I think you will like them a lot. We've been coming up with a lot of new tools as well. So check it all out, awesomemode.com/promos, or just use the promo code SCRAMBLE at checkout. All right. So Dalvin Cook, 6%. Antonio Gibson, 6%. Brian Robinson, clearly not going to be on the field. Miles Sanders, 4.9%. AJ Dillon, we talked about. So talk to me about some of these lower owned plays, and if you have anybody else that interests you.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook I mentioned earlier. So he looks really bad in the boom bust tool. 6.4% projected ownership, 1.2% chance of booming. But I'm going to take some shots on Dalvin Cook. I love the rivalry matchup. So I think that I will be going to some Cook here. Antonio Gibson also doesn't look great in the boom bust tool. Also, I think I'm going to be playing some Antonio Gibson anyway. If he's coming in at 6.4% projected ownership, I mean, he put up big numbers last year. He didn't look great doing it. He fumbled it plenty, but in the end, he put up big fantasy scores last year. So at 5,800, if nobody's going to Antonio Gibson without Brian Robinson in the game, I expect Antonio Gibson to be 2 down back. He's going to be the early down back at the very least for the Commanders this year. So I have some interest in Antonio Gibson. Damien Pierce, I kind of was expecting him to be chalky, to be honest. I thought he was going to.
That was the guy I was saving to talk about. But go ahead, please. Go straight into it, because the 1.9% to me seems wild.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to hold. Do you?
No,
there's no way that holds.
No, I don't.
Because 4,800 is just a misprice for Damien Pierce. I mean, we didn't know that he was going to be the RB1 when these salaries were posted. Now we know that Damien Pierce is pretty clear the RB1. He's also just kind of like the hot thing right now. Like people in best ball, he's up to that 60th pick along with AJ Dillon when he was 150 a month ago. So people are really in on Damien Pierce right now. I don't see any way that he stays at under 2% ownership at 4,800. If he does, yeah, sign me up for some Damien Pierce. I think that's kind of a wait and see though, because I could see that getting really steamed going into the weekend.
I can't imagine it doesn't. At least upward, at least to like 8 to 10%. I also think it's totally possible that Damien Pierce ends up being a 3 down back. I could be totally wrong about this, Neil. I could be completely wrong, but maybe they just like him so much that Rex Burkhead doesn't get all that 3 down or the 3rd down work. They released Marlon Mack, signed into the practice squad, then released him. They didn't even play. Lovie Smith didn't even play Pierce in week 2 because he had already locked up the starting job. Forget about what anyone says. The only reason you don't play the guy if he's not injured is because he locked it up, and then you release Marlon Mack. So if you're just, logically, what does that tell you?
I'm with you. I could see him becoming a 3-down back pretty easily. I'm going to hate it if he is, because I have like no Damien Pierce in best ball. And I was drafting when he was in that 150 range, when it was just so easy to take him. And I just never got to Damien Pierce. Didn't really know anything about him. And now I'm super bummed that I missed the boat on Damien Pierce when I had such a great opportunity. So I'm going to be disappointed, but I also think that it is not unlikely. I don't know if I would say it's likely that he becomes a 3-down back, but I don't think it's unlikely. I think that it's certainly within the reasonable range of outcomes because they seem to love him.
So I'm with you. One of the things I said to Ben yesterday was, I'll take a shot on him being the 3-down back if he's 2% owned.
Yeah.
Also, somebody asked in chat, where was that? Because it was a great question. Someone asked about his pass blocking.
Yep.
And he, from everything I've seen, he's fine. Like he's an average pass blocker. He's fine. He's also not a bad pass catcher, but rookies in pass protection can be an issue. We heard a lot of about that with like Ken Walker before he went down with the hernia. So yeah, definitely a thing. And yes, of course, I'm reading in chat. Burkhead could definitely be the pass catching back. All I'm saying is he's 32 years old. If Damien Pierce shows an ability in the passing game on a young team that's going nowhere very fast this year, they're going to give the guy as much work as they can. That's all I'm saying. It's possible. That's all. But
yeah, no, I'm totally agree with you. And I agree with what they're saying. Yeah, it is likely that Rex Burkhead is the 3rd down back, the pass catching back. But I don't think that it's, I don't think that it's a 90% chance. That I think that Pierce has a greater than 10% chance of being a 3-down back because they know what they have in Rex Burkhead. They might want to, give Pierce his shot. So I think that there is at least some possibility. And yeah, to answer Matt Riley's question, I don't know how good he is in pass protection, particularly in the NFL. I don't think we're going to know for a few weeks at least. So we'll find that out, but wouldn't surprise me if they give him that opportunity.
Yeah, all the scouting reports say he's adequate. He's okay. Average. So
all right, probably fine.
Kanoa's dad says coaches don't even want bell cows. Fantasy bros do. Well, I mean, of course we do.
That's true. Yeah,
but some coaches, if you're good enough, they have no choice but to make you the bell cow back. Granted, it's not like we're talking a 1st-round draft pick here. Any other running backs? And hey, here's the good thing about the show: take the information. If you disagree with it, you could. Like Neil or I could say something and you could hear all of that and come to a different conclusion. It's entirely possible. Like a lot of this is going to be subjective. So any other running backs?
So you brought up, I skipped over Miles Sanders. Yeah, Miles Sanders is going to be interesting going up against the Lions. As good of a matchup as you can possibly have for Miles Sanders, coming in at 4.9% projected ownership. 1.9% chance of booming. Man, all these guys that we have as contrarian have lower odds of booming currently in the boom bust tool. I expect this to change going into Sunday.
I agree.
I think he has a greater than 1.9% chance of booming. It's a great matchup. He's 5,400. So I definitely do have some interest in Miles Sanders. I didn't even mention when I was talking about Antonio Gibson that he is going up against the Jags, which is also a pretty solid matchup for Gibson because they are favored to win and
at home.
He should be getting some volume there. And then AJ Dillon, we talked about a little bit earlier when we talked about Aaron Jones, but just covering the rest of our pivot discussion. I guess I'll bring up, what do you think is going to happen with the Chiefs backfield? And are you willing to go there at all this week?
I don't think you need to. Cardinals secondary is really bad. They've done nothing to fix it either. They've done nothing to fix it in the offseason. Go and look at all the metrics from last season. Neil, this was a bad secondary. They were bad. Yeah. And you have Patrick Mahomes. You have no Tyreek Hill, but you still have Travis Kelce. MVS is going to be fine as a deep threat. I'm telling you right now, this dude's going to be fine. Him and Mahomes already have a bit of a connection there. And and you have Juju Smith-Schuster, and even Hardman's fine. Like if you got look what Mahomes made Byron Pringle look like the primetime king last year. Every time they were on the
primetime only, but yeah.
So what's that?
Yeah, only primetime.
Primetime, that's it.
Yeah,
primetime king. And then we have one more question about Eli Mitchell. It's just not a spot I feel great about. You got the hammy. It's a good matchup against Chicago, no doubt. But I think there's just other guys I like more. Plus, he's a complete ghost in the passing game. So not a spot I love. Could I see him going for 120 rushing yards and 2 scores? It's possible, yeah, but not my favorite. I'll have 100% Miles Sanders this week.
Of course.
With 100%, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
What?
Makes sense. As an Eagles homer, you have to just lock in your guy. I have no
idea. I don't think I can do it. I think they're going to run the ball a ton. I do, but I don't. He's dealing with the injury. It's just such a scary spot, man.
Yeah. I don't hate the call on Eli Mitchell. I think it makes some sense because he seems like he could have pretty solid volume at 5,400. I think that in a large field GPP, I could see playing Eli Mitchell in like a Millie Maker type tournament. I think he makes some sense.
Let's talk some wide receivers here. You got some interesting ones up top. Rondale Moore, 19%. The king of catching every pass behind the line of scrimmage. Michael Pittman Jr., I love him. This, I think, just phenomenal spot for Michael Pittman Jr. But I will tell you this much. So, all right. If you look at the Houston Texans, the trajectory there is pointing upwards, Neil. And I'm not saying that they're going to be good this year, but defensively, I think they could be better than people are giving them credit for, or better than people think they were. They also drafted Derek Stingley Jr. At corner. This guy might just be really good out of the gate as a top draft pick in the first round. Pittman's still a beast, though, so I still like him. But that is it's an interesting dynamic there in the secondary that defense might not be as bad as we think. Call me crazy, but it is.
You're not the first person I've heard say that. I've seen it on Twitter a few times from people that I respect talking about how the Texans might not be as bad as everybody assumes they're going to be.
Uh-huh.
I could see it happening. With that said, I do have the Colts in a majority of my survivor picks for week 1, just because when else are you going to take the Colts, and it's a 7-point spread. So I'm hoping that Houston isn't great out of the gate, but yeah, I think that it is a team that has a little bit of potential at least. Michael Pittman's another guy that was kind of a blind spot for me in best ball. So I'm really hoping it doesn't go off and really kind of expecting that he will. Yeah, it could happen in week 1. 15.4% projected ownership, fairly high, but the price is right. 5,500 against the Texans. I think that Michael Pittman is going to make some sense for sure.
Among the other high-priced options, Jamar Chase, Marquise Brown. We already know that Arizona offense is going to be pretty popular because none of them are expensive. My guess is you see a lot of expensive running backs in those lineups, Neil. Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Kadarius Toney, Devontae. All these guys are above 10%. Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, Adam Thielen, Rashad Bateman, they're all around 10% as well. If you have to look at this, of all of these guys right now that are projected for decent to high ownership, are there any that just jump off the page at you?
That are projected for high ownership?
Like, 10+%. I do it in the run sheet. Those are all the guys that are getting basically double-digit ownership right now.
Yeah, I mean, I like Justin Jefferson. I think all of the chatter has been that the Vikings are going to be passing it more this year. And I think Justin Jefferson could be in for just an enormous year. So I'm going to love that, at least at the beginning of the year until the ownership catches up. Yeah, as far as high ownership guys, let me take a look at your sheet to see the exact players we're talking about here. Rondale Moore, that seems a little bit high to me, 19% projected ownership. I don't love that. I don't think I'm going to get up to where he is. I'd be more likely to play Marquise Brown at 14.2%. I think that he is the clear wide receiver 1 for the Cardinals. So I think I'd rather just play more Marquise Brown and kind of fade Rondale Moore in this matchup. I'm not sure what I make of T. Higgins versus Jamar Chase yet, because there's a lot of metrics that would suggest that there's going to be regression there and it will be in T. Higgins's favor. But then the counterpoint would be, Jamar Chase was a rookie last year. So we could kind of expect Jamar Chase just to have more volume this year than he had last year. Do you have a take on Jamar Chase versus T. Higgins for the season?
I mean, I'm still going to go with Jamar. Are you saying just raw fantasy production or?
Yeah, raw fantasy production. Like, I mean, yeah. So I would also take Jamar Chase, but do you think there's a 90% chance that Jamar Chase outscores T. Higgins in raw fantasy production this year? Or kind of where would you put the odds of Jamar
Probably
Chase
like
outscoring?
80.
Okay,
But
that seems about right to me.
Only because when you're talking, but for me, when you're talking, the deep threat ability, the contested catches, the I'm not saying T. Higgins can't be a force in the red zone or in the end zone either, but Jamar Chase is just a monster. And we saw what he did as a rookie. As a rookie, this guy came out there and absolutely dominated. And he did so against some good teams in a tough AFC North. So, for almost a 1,500-yard season, and what do you have, 13 touchdowns as a rookie?
Right.
Whew. And I'm not saying like he's the biggest guy out there. He's 6 foot 210 or something like that. But he plays like he's so much bigger than he is. Like, because Higgins is bigger than Jamar Chase.
Right.
But Chase just plays like such a monster at every phase of it. But I like T. Higgins. I think what is he, 6,100 or something this week?
Yeah, T. Higgins at 6,100 is interesting to me. Coming in at 12.1% ownership, that seems reasonable to me. I think that I would like to have plenty of T. Higgins in my lineups as well.
Chris said at Lafayette, have you seen the weather forecast this week? Where at? Where?
Talking Philly?
Well, the game's in Detroit, and that's a dome. So I'm not sure if he's talking about, maybe we're talking about in Cincinnati. I'm not sure. But no, I haven't. Feel free to let me know. Do we still have the bot that you can ask for the weather, or do we get rid of that?
I don't know. I've never tried it. I didn't know we had that.
We had one where you could like type in, but then people started putting wild shit in there. So
he says everywhere. I think it's too early to really be looking at weather this early in the week. It's only Wednesday.
Yeah, I'll wait a little bit. We'll see.
Oh, it did work. Mike just did it in chat. That's cool.
I guess you can't be like weather for Sunday in that place, but yeah, I don't know. All right. So here's one. I got some really interesting conversation pieces as wide receiver pivots. Not all of these guys I love. Some of them I do, but all of them are in one way or another kind of polarizing. What do you do with a guy like Deebo Samuel, who is getting 2.8% projected ownership right now? Last year finishes the wide receiver 2, just signed a monster $73 million contract with rushing incentives, might I add. What do you do with a guy like that? Because it's not like he's cheap, but he's also going completely unowned.
I mean, somebody's going to have to score for San Francisco, right? I mean, they're 7-point favorites. So I think Deebo Samuel is as likely as anybody. 2.8% projected ownership. That's pretty low for somebody who we didn't really know how he was going to get it done last year, but week to week, he just got it done every week, whether as a rusher or a receiver. They just want to get him the ball. He is probably their most talented offensive player. So I think they're going to continue feeding Deebo the ball. I like him. I like him at 2.8% ownership. I think that I'd like to be above the field on Deebo Samuel. I've seen the argument on Twitter. Somebody's brought up that there is a non-zero chance that Brandon Ayuk outscores Deebo Samuel as somebody's hot take for the year. And I agree that there's a non-zero chance, but I still think that it's more likely that Deebo Samuel is just the stud and they want to get him the ball. So even with all the chatter, and Ayuk is a great player. So even with his great offseason, sure, I still think they want to get Deebo the ball. Deebo will be very involved. So 2.8% ownership, 7,400. Sign me up for some Deebo.
It kind of feels like when you pay a guy that type of money, and a guy that was so productive last year, that you'd probably emphasize, getting him the football from time to time. Yeah. It's not mutually exclusive though. It's not really a zero-sum game in the sense that like Brandon Ayuk can't do well either.
True. Yeah. Brandon Ayuk can improve and Deebo could still put out kind of the same numbers that he put out last year.
All right. What do you want to do with the Eagles receivers this week? Good matchup against Detroit, but you've got a running back in Jalen Hurts, who as we've seen thus far, is not good at passing the football. I know we've heard that he's been more accurate in camp. It's entirely possible that that Jalen Hurts is still not a good passer.
It's possible. I'll start by saying I'm going to disappoint Mike and say I don't think I'm playing any Quez Watkins this week. Mike said he's going to lock in Quez Watkins in the chat. I don't think I'm locking in Quez Watkins. I could
get a deep attempt or two.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. AJ Brown is it's such a great receiving core for Jalen Hurts this year that I think that he will improve. I think that the Philly offense overall is an offense that I'm going to be interested in playing from week to week. They are getting ownership though this week, I think because of the matchup with Detroit. AJ Brown coming in at 11.2% projected ownership. I'm okay with it. He has 7.1% chance of booming, so he doesn't look incredible in the boom bust tool. He's negative leverage there. I'm probably not going over the field on AJ Brown when he's getting 11.2% projected ownership, but I could see myself getting to that 7 to 10% range on AJ Brown. I just think with a matchup like this, I'm going to be attacking all facets of the game for the Eagles. So some interest in AJ Brown. I'll probably have some Devontae Smith too. I don't think that I will be double stacking with the Eagles. I think that I'll be playing, single stacks or as one-offs in lineups without Hurts. I'll be playing these guys, but Devontae Smith is interesting in a matchup with the Eagles. 4.3% projected ownership, 2.4% chance of booming. Not your favorite thing to see. He has negative leverage, but I still think sure he could certainly go off against the Lions. Do you think you're going to be over the field on either of these guys? I mean, obviously you're going to be locking them all in because but if you were not an Eagles fan, do you think you'd be over the field on these guys?
It's tough for me because we haven't even talked about Dallas Goedert yet. And, last year, obviously there was no AJ Brown, understood, but they ran the ball, I think 46 times in the same matchup and bludgeoned the Lions like 44-6. And that's only one game. And that's from a year ago. I get all of that. But they also led the league in run play percentage. They do like to run the football. And while I expect them to pass more, you don't bring on AJ Brown with the intentions of passing less. I still don't think they're going to be a pass heavy team. So that means that you have Devontae Smith, you have Dallas Goedert, you have AJ Brown, and Quez Watkins, who they will use on some deep balls. They will use him in the flat as well. We've seen them open games with 3-4 straight passes to Quez Watkins. So there are mouths to feed. If anywhere, I'd rather go AJ Brown because of what he can do after the catch. I think that's going to be super valuable in this offense, especially if Jalen Hurts isn't particularly accurate. Definitely don't want to double stack him. Definitely don't want to do that. Someone mentioned in the chat yesterday, like just get pieces. If you're playing many lineups, just get pieces of Philly and sprinkle them throughout the lineups or just, have a Eagle in most of your lineups. I have no problem with that because the matchup is so good. One of them, maybe two of them are going to perform for sure.
Which Eagles do you think are playable? So I'll start with AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert, all that's clearly playable. That's it. You're not going to be playing. You're not going to any like Kenneth Gainwell or going off the board there.
Not in this spot. Like if Sanders is active, then I would take some shots that he comes in and gets the majority of touches. But it means that if he's active, there's also a possibility that Gainwell is mixed in and Scott gets some work. And then I just don't really, and Jalen Hurts, Jalen Hurts is going to run and siphon off or vulture some touchdowns as well. So there's a lot of question marks there.
I'm on the same page.
But I think Devontae Smith is in play at 4% or whatever. I have no problem with that. No problem with Goddard. No problem with AJ Brown. I just don't want a lot of them in one lineup.
Yeah. There are weeks where I might consider going to Kenneth Gainwell. I haven't actually even looked at what his salary is. So assuming that he is minimum or close to it, there are weeks that I would consider going to him, but just because the pricing is so inefficient overall this week, I don't think you need to be taking those kinds of crazy chances.
100% agree. Like if Gainwell was minimum salary and everybody else was priced accurately, I think you can make a pretty good argument for it. But we'll see.
Not necessarily this week. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I think we're on the same page there then.
All right. Any other wide? Oh, let's close the position out with this. what do you want to do? What do you plan on doing with Chiefs receivers and Green Bay receivers? Because outside, like, yeah, you have Juju and Kelsey, but then you've got a bunch of tertiary options that could have solid games. And then in Green Bay, if Alan Lazard doesn't play, you might not have anybody, significant, but you might have a bunch of guys that are close to minimum salary as well.
Yeah, so I was actually going to bring those up as two offenses that we definitely need to talk about a little bit, because we really don't know what to make of these offenses. I mean, I guess we can start with the Chiefs. I think we assume that it's Juju followed by MVS followed by you're saying Mecole Hardman. Do you think Mecole Hardman has the job over Sky Moore at this point?
Last I read, Patrick Mahomes said that Mecole Hardman is going to be a very big part of the offense this year. So, quarterback speak is what it is.
Yeah.
But
has he ever not said that before a season?
Yeah. I mean, it's true. But at the same time, a rookie second rounder in an Andy Reid offense, usually they get worked into an offense slower than other coaches would do.
Yeah. Okay. So,
but I don't know, Neil. I don't think any of us have a good answer. Maybe they both play 50% of snaps. I don't know.
So I guess my answer to what I'm doing with the Chiefs is I think I'm going to be over the field on all of the Chiefs receivers. Let me double check Juju's ownership here. 9.2% ownership for Juju. So maybe not Juju, but he's 5,200 in a game with 53 implied total. So I think he's the Chiefs wide receiver one. So he's a little bit over-owned according to the Boom Bust tool, but I don't hate it. I'll probably play some Juju, and I'll certainly be over the field on all of the other guys, with MVS somehow only getting 2.8% projected ownership at 4,700. If that holds, I'm definitely going to be over the field on MVS. I could see the ownership coming up on MVS throughout the week. I'm not sure that I trust that is going to be the final number, but definitely have interest there. Definitely have interest in Mecole at the stone minimum. Is he the stone minimum? Let me double check. Maybe he's not the stone min. Where is Mecole?
Who?
Mecole Hardman. 46. Okay, so it's 4,600 coming in at virtually no ownership. Yeah, I'm interested in getting over the field on all of the Chiefs receivers, and that for me includes Sky Moore, just because he is 3,800. Sky Moore is actually getting more ownership than Mecole. So the field is playing that makes me want to go more to Mecole than Sky. If the field is going to Sky instead, Sky coming in at 3.3% projected ownership. He's 3,800. I still like it. I still want to play some Sky Moore at that ownership and that price tag, but makes Mecole even more interesting if the field is assuming that Sky is the guy, and we think Mecole might be.
Wide receivers here, covered a lot of them. I mean, we got plenty more shows coming up throughout the week, and we only have so much time. I want to get to our stacks for sure. So I will move on here. Okay. But if you guys haven't yet, and I wanted to get to this as well, checked out Underdog Fantasy. I think Best Ball Mania, I don't think it filled yet. I got a couple more drafts in yesterday. It
hasn't filled as of before this show. I'm at like 140, and I need to finish it today. So it has not quite filled yet. Get in now, because it's a fun tournament.
No question. Also, though, you got some other great stuff like the Puppy 4 is, I think, that did fill. The Puppy 4 is $500,000 in prizes, $5 entry. So there's some really great stuff. $75,000 up top. They have amazing contests, and they have daily contests too for other sports. They also have, prop lineups and stuff. There's a million different ways that you could play and win and thoroughly enjoy Underdog Fantasy. I'd say the best part is probably the fact that if you use the promo code Stokastic, STOKASTIC, and you could make a deposit up to $100. They will give you a first match deposit bonus up to $100. So you put in 80, you get 80. Put in 20, you get 20. You put in 100, you get 100. Take advantage of that free money for sure. And you get our best ball draft kit, 100% free. So you're talking $170 right there. If you deposit it under, you deposit whatever, 50, you can deposit 30 and you still get our best ball kit. All of that is huge. If you're looking to get in on it, use the promo code Stokastic, deposit whatever you're comfortable with, get your first match deposit bonus, and then take advantage of our free best ball draft kit. I mean, you're just set up for success over at Underdog. Still got the puppy and some other contests up there. If you haven't gotten
free
in
is
yet.
Still available.
What's that?
BBM3 is still available. You're probably not seeing it because I think they have stopped kind of putting it as their main contest, but I'm seeing they still have like 4,000 entries left. So it'll be filled today for sure. So if you're interested in joining BBM3, which has $2 million first prize, $1 million second prize prize, and then also a $1 million prize for the regular season leader. So I think it's probably the best you can do in terms of best ball, the biggest contest for sure. So get in now to BBM3 because it will fill.
You're right. I was on my phone. I had to go to NFL, and you're right. It's still there. It's just not on the homepage. So $1 million to the person who wins in round one. And then if you win it all, it's another million or whatever. It's a huge prize pool. All right. Quickly on tight ends. Kelsey, obviously in play. I think Darren Waller's in a sneaky good spot. Chargers one struggle point because they're just phenomenal secondary. But I think Darren Waller, especially with the Chargers having a great slot corner, Devontae Adams can always get his, but tough matchup for him. I think Waller can eat here, but he's 11.6. Mark Andrews in any matchup. Dallas Goedert, Kyle Pitts. I don't want to get too deep into them because I think all of them are perfectly fine. I really wanted to just get your take on some of the lower owned guys. Are there, or just your philosophy on tight end this week in general?
So I think I'm going to be paying up a lot at tight end just because those guys are not getting crazy ownership. The guys at the top look great. Mike Gesicki looks like he's going under owned in our boom bust tool. I don't totally trust Mike Gesicki because there have been so many rumors that he's just going to be blocking this year. But he's coming in at 1.7% ownership. He does become interesting. We have him at a 4.9% chance of booming. I don't know if that's accounting for a role where he is blocking a lot more this year. Because I think we just don't really know what he's going to be. Dallas Goedert, I guess Dallas Goedert is getting some steam, 9.2% projected ownership. That seems about right to me. Freiermuth, 4.3% projected ownership. I think he's taking on a bigger role for Pittsburgh this year. So I have some interest in Freiermuth. We'll have to see if Robert Tonyan plays. Kind of hard to know what to expect there. If he plays, kind of interesting, especially if he plays and Lazard doesn't play, I'll have some interest in Robert Tonyan. David Njoku, we only have him at a 0.6% chance of booming, but I think there's some chance that David Njoku takes over as the number one pass catcher or the number two after Amari Cooper this year. At 3,900, I think I have some interest in Njoku. Gerald Everett, as you said, obviously attached to a great passing offense for the Chargers. Trying to see if there's anybody else who really stands out to me as somebody that I really want to play. I've been drafting a ton of Taysom Hill this year in best ball, but I think that's more with the hope that he becomes the quarterback at some point, that maybe Jameis is out for a few games and Taysom takes over at quarterback for a few games. I don't know that I'm going to trust Taysom just yet if he is coming in the tight end role. I don't have a ton of interest there. I think we have largely covered it.
One guy I'll throw out there, and I agree with you that if Robert Tonyan plays, he doesn't need to play 80% of snaps. I think the touchdown equity at that price and ownership is fine. Zach Ertz, obviously, if he's on the field in that matchup, is fine. But TJ Hawkinson at 3%. Philly really bolstered their secondary. They made some improvements to the linebackers, but I think that could still be an exploitable spot for TJ Hawkinson, and he's coming in at only 3% this week. So.
Yeah, I skipped right over Hawkinson because he looks very neutral in the tools, so it just didn't really jump out to me. But yeah, that seems like a really interesting spot for him against the Eagles. I have interest for sure.
All right, two things before we get to my favorite segment here and wrap it up. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. We got 450 people watching. Atone for your sins, my friends. We got 123 likes. If you haven't done so, take that single second. Helps us keep the lights on around here. You know how the overlords on YouTube work. And subscribe to the channel. Join the family. We also had somebody to come in and join it earlier, and I think I missed it. Jeff Irvin, welcome to Team Stokastic, man. I did miss that, but we're back. All right, but yeah, hit that thumbs up. And if you're listening on the podcast, you guys, subscribe or whatever you do in podcast form. All right, top stacks this week. The highest top stack probability, and like I said, you can use the promo code SCRAMBLE, get all these tools for the entire week for only $7, or go to awesemo.com/promos. Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals, Eagles, Chargers are all 8% or higher for top stack probability. Are there any that have high top stack probability, but also you really like and will be overweight on?
The Ravens coming in at 11.7% chance to be in the top stack. Lamar Jackson only getting 6.2% projected ownership. That looks great to me. I'm going to have interest in a Ravens stack. I'm probably not double stacking with Lamar just because he does so much damage on the ground, but Lamar with Mark Andrews, plenty of interest there. Lamar with Rashad Bateman, I'm going to want to play some. Cincinnati not getting Joe Burrow coming in at 7% projected ownership with a 10.4% chance of being the top stack. And you can, any of his 3 receivers are interesting, maybe even Hayden Hurst. So I'm going to like playing some Cincinnati stacks this week. Kansas City, that's the highest total, I believe, of the day. So Pat Mahomes getting 8.9% projected ownership, 10.6% chance of being the top stack. As we've said, we don't really know what's going to happen with the receivers there. I think there are 4 viable receivers on top of Travis Kelce. So a lot of different ways you can play it, and you could definitely double stack with Patrick Mahomes. We didn't get really into the Green Bay situation, but I think that Aaron Rodgers at 2.9% projected ownership, only a 2.5% chance of being the top stack. But I think that there are a lot of different ways that you can do that stack. I think, we talked about all the different receivers that might be options in Green Bay. So I do have interest in Green Bay. And then obviously you can run that back with the Vikings or the vice versa. I like the Kirk Cousins to Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen or Irv Smith, maybe throw in KJ Osborne for some salary savings. I like the Minnesota stack going up against Green Bay as well.
I like all of them for sure. I mean, the Kansas City, Arizona game stack is definitely going to be popular. I think you could get different though with Kansas City, lesser popular options. That's what makes it interesting now that Tyreek Hill's gone. Like, you're going to have Juju, you're going to have Kelsey, he's going to get a lot of work. Juju, we suspect he will be the number 1, but what if it is MVS or Hardman that goes off in that game? Entirely possible. They're going to open things up so you can do a lot with those lineups as well. Joe Burrow, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh secondary could be on the downward trend here. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, you can't go wrong there. They no longer have CJ Usama, but they're not to say that matters a lot, but if you were just looking for a receiver in a cheap tight end stack, the one that interests me is Derek Carr because it's really not an easy matchup for him. This Chargers defense looks great, but you have so many good players that maybe this just develops into a complete shootout, Neil. And, you have Justin Herbert on one side, you have Herbert on one side, and then you have on the other side of this one, you have Derek Carr, and both of them just sling the ball around and, soar past that 51.5 point total.
Yeah, that's absolutely a game that could go off. 52.5 implied total. I think you could play either side of that game. In both cases, the quarterbacks look a little bit under-owned relative to their odds of being the top stack, as Vision DFS pointed out in the chat. The Chargers, 8.4% chance of being the top stack. Herbert only a 6.7% projected ownership. And then, as you said, Derek Carr on the other side, 5.4% projected ownership with a 6.7% chance of being the top stack. So definitely a game that you can attack with that 52.5 implied total. And that's another spot where I would consider stacking Eckler with Herbert as well. You can include him in your stacks.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any? Oh, for sure. If you've got, that's that one. We've seen that produced many, many times. Are there any? We'll wrap the show up with this. And as always, appreciate you guys hanging out. You can find Neil at PlayerQDFS on Twitter, me at Laffy_D, LOUGHY_D. Are there any high leverage stacks that appeal to you this week? We can wrap it with that.
High leverage. I mean, I'll add in Miami. So all the stacks we've talked about, for the most part, a lot of them are high leverage.
Yeah,
stacks.
I meant guys, teams that we might not have talked about, but don't have really a high top stack probability either. There doesn't seem like a ton.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add in Miami. They're getting Tua's getting 3.7% with a 5.6% chance of being the top stack. A lot of different ways that you can go with that stack. I find that pretty interesting. Negative leverage on the Jacksonville stack. It's sort of going to be interesting. I played Trevor a lot last year. I'll probably be going back to Trevor this year with the new coaching staff, hoping for the best, hoping for a year 2 jump, but not really something that I need to focus on for week 1. I think that we've largely covered the stacks that I am most interested in. Do you have any other leverage stacks that you're really interested in?
No, you covered. I think we covered a lot on this show. Pretty satisfied.
We did.
Good stuff. Appreciate Mike Lawrence producing this one. Neil, it's been fun. We'll do it again every week.
Yeah, can't wait. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks to you guys as always for watching and supporting us. Remember, Scramble gets you $7 for 7 days. Awesome plus platinum. Everything on the site, not just football, every tool, including our new lineup generator. And Stokastic promo code gets you up to $100 first match deposit bonus at Underdog, and our best ball kit, draft kit, entirely free. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the matchups show. Matt Savoca and myself. It's the Marathon Matchup Show. Going for the long haul, baby. Peace.